I was handcuffed at my twin daughter's funeral, while their small coffins sat 10 feet away. The cold metal bit into my wrists as Detective Packard read me my rights, his voice echoing through the funeral home while mourners gasped and stepped back like I was contagious. My mother stood behind the news cameras, dabbing her eyes with a lace handkerchief she'd probably bought just for this performance. "I warned everyone she'd snap one day," she told the reporters, her voice carrying that perfect mix of grief and vindication. "She smothered those babies in their sleep. A mother knows these things. I tried to help her, but she was too proud to admit she was drowning." The cameras swung between us, capturing my shock, my shaking hands, the way my knees buckled when they pulled me away from Hazel's coffin where I'd been adjusting her favorite purple bow. They caught my mother's tears, so perfectly timed, so believably heartbroken. What they didn't catch was the small smile that flickered across her face when she thought no one was looking. My 7-year-old son, Dexter, stood frozen by the funeral director's office door, wearing the little black suit we'd bought just yesterday. His dinosaur watch, the one he never took off, glowed green against his dark sleeve. He was holding the funeral program so tightly they crumpled in his small fists, and his eyes moved between me and his grandmother with an expression I'd never seen before. Not confusion, not fear, something else. Knowledge. "Mommy didn't hurt them," he said, his voice cutting through the chaos like a blade. Everyone turned to look at this small boy with his too serious face and his carefully combed hair. "Grandma's lying. I saw her go in their room at night. I took pictures with the old phone. Grandma's fingerprints are on the pillow, not Mommy's." The room went silent. Even the news cameras seemed to hold their breath. My mother's face changed then, just for a second, the mask slipping to reveal something cold underneath, before she recovered. "The poor child is traumatized," she said to the nearest reporter, reaching out as if to comfort Dexter, who stepped back. "Children say the most heartbreaking things when they're grieving. He doesn't understand what he's saying." But Detective Packard was already kneeling beside my son, and Dexter was pulling out my old phone, the one I let him play games on, his small fingers steady as he showed the detective something on the screen. And in that moment, in that horrible, beautiful moment, the truth began its slow climb toward the light. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. Every morning at 5:30, my alarm would buzz in the small bedroom of our rented house on Maple Street, and I'd slip out of bed trying not to wake anyone. The floorboard by the door always creaked, and Dexter would mumble from his room, "Morning, Mom," even though I told him 100 times he should sleep until 6:30. I worked as a pediatric nurse at Children's Memorial. Hospital, 12-hour shifts that left my feet aching and my heart full. There's something about caring for sick children that changes you. You come home and hug your own kids tighter, even when you're so tired you can barely stand. My supervisor, Janet, always said I was one of the best nurses on the floor, but she worried about me. "Ramona, you're spreading yourself too thin," she'd say when she caught me nodding off during my break. "Those kids need you healthy." Hazel and Iris were 4 years old, identical twins with completely opposite personalities. Hazel was the adventurer, always climbing something she shouldn't, her knee perpetually skinned from some new exploration. Iris was my careful one, the child who colored inside the lines and asked permission before taking a cookie. At bedtime, Hazel would bounce on the bed while Iris arranged her stuffed animals in a perfect row. They shared everything except temperament, and somehow that made them inseparable. Dexter had just turned 7, and he was already the man of our little house. He'd pour cereal for his sisters when I was running late, help them zip their jackets, and read them picture books in voices that made them giggle. His teacher, Mrs. Patterson, said he was gifted, especially in math and observation skills. "That boy notices everything," she told me at parent conferences. He counted how many times I touched my earring when I was nervous about the principal's visit. The trouble with my mother started small, the way most family troubles do. Beverly Tilford had retired from her job as a court stenographer 6 months ago, claiming her arthritis made it impossible to type anymore. Funny how that same arthritis never bothered her during her 3-hour piano sessions at First Methodist Church every Sunday. She lived 6 blocks away in the house where I grew up, a pristine colonial where the plastic stayed on the furniture and you weren't allowed to eat anywhere but the kitchen table. She'd started dropping by more often after retirement, Tuesday afternoons, Thursday mornings, and always Sunday after church. Each visit came with commentary. "Ramona, this house is chaos. Those girls run wild. In my day, children knew their place." She'd open my cabinets without asking, reorganize my pantry, and leave lists of everything I was doing wrong taped to my refrigerator. The breaking point came in February. I'd picked up an extra shift to cover the heating bill, and my regular babysitter had canceled. My mother offered to watch the kids overnight, and against my better judgment, I agreed. When I came home at 7 in the morning, I found Hazel and Iris kneeling on rice in the corner of the kitchen, tears streaming down their faces. "They spilled juice on my good tablecloth," my mother explained, as if this was perfectly reasonable. 20 minutes on the rice teaches them to be careful. That's how I raised you." "I was never happy," I told her, pulling my crying daughters into my arms, brushing the rice indentations from their small knees. "I was terrified. Every single day, I was terrified of you." Her face hardened. "And look how you turned out. Working yourself to death, no husband, living in this rental with 3 children you can barely manage." "Get out," I said. "You're not watching them alone anymore. Ever." She stood slowly, smoothing her skirt. "You'll regret this, Ramona. These children need structure, discipline, not some exhausted mother who prioritizes strangers' children over her own. When something happens, and it will, remember that I tried to help." After that day, our relationship became a cold war. She still visited, but only when I was home. She'd sit on my couch with her purse in her lap, watching my every move, making notes in a little leather journal. "For my memories," she'd say, when Dexter asked what she was writing. Dexter had started watching her too. He'd sit at the kitchen table doing homework, but I'd catch him glancing up whenever she moved. Once I found him writing in his own notebook, keeping track of her visits. "Why are you doing that?" I asked. "Grandma Beverly makes you sad," he said simply. "I want to remember when she comes, so I can make you happy after she leaves." That was our life in the weeks before everything shattered. Work, kids, my mother's judgment, and the constant exhaustion that came from trying to prove I was enough. I thought I was protecting them by limiting her access. I thought the danger was her harsh words and outdated punishments. I never imagined the danger was so much darker. Thursday, April 15th, started like any other disaster waiting to happen. Dr. Morrison called me at 6 in the morning. "Ramona, I hate to do this, but Stephanie's got pneumonia. Can you pull a double? We've got 3 kids coming out of surgery today, and I need someone I trust." I looked at my 3 children eating breakfast. Dexter was cutting Iris's pancakes into perfect squares, while Hazel tried to build a tower with her toast. My usual babysitter, Carol, had texted me the night before saying she had the flu. My backup, the college girl from down the street, was in the middle of finals. "I'll make it work," I told Dr. Morrison, because what else could I say? The hospital needed me, and we needed the overtime pay. The electric bill was past due, and Hazel needed new shoes after she'd outgrown her current pair seemingly overnight. I scrolled through my phone contacts, desperation growing with each unavailable option. Then my mother's number appeared on the screen like a verdict. My thumb hovered over it while Dexter watched me from across the table. "Not Grandma Beverly," he said quietly. "Please, Mom." "Just this once," I promised him. "I'll be back first thing in the morning." When I called her, she answered on the first ring, as if she'd been waiting. "Finally coming to your senses?" Her voice had that satisfied tone that made my stomach clench. "I'll be there in 10 minutes. And Ramona, I'm staying the night. No point in me going back and forth. You look terrible in that security camera footage from the hospital. People at church are starting to talk." She arrived with her overnight bag and that leather journal, setting herself up in the living room like she was reclaiming territory. The twins hid behind Dexter, who stood between them and his grandmother like a tiny bodyguard. "Behave for Grandma," I told them, kneeling down to kiss each of them. Hazel whispered in my ear, "I don't want you to go." Iris just held onto my neck until I had to gently untangle her arms. "They'll be fine," my mother said, already shooing them toward the stairs. "It's 8 o'clock. Children should be in bed by 8. You've let them develop terrible sleep habits." The shift was brutal. 3 post-operative children, 2 emergency admissions, and a baby whose fever wouldn't break. I texted my mother at midnight to check in. She replied with one word, "Sleeping." At 3 in the morning, I tried to call, but she didn't answer. I told myself she'd turned off her phone, that everything was fine. Janet found me in the supply closet at 4, crying from exhaustion and worry. "Go home," she said. "We can manage the last 3 hours." "I can't," I said. "I need the money, and Dr. Morrison is counting on me." When I finally got home at 7:15 a.m., the house felt wrong immediately. Too quiet, but not the peaceful quiet of sleeping children, the kind of quiet that makes your skin crawl. My mother sat in the living room reading her newspaper, fully dressed, her hair perfectly styled. "The girls wouldn't wake up for breakfast," she said without looking up. "They're probably playing that game where they pretend to be asleep. You really should discipline them better. This willful disobedience starts early." I took the stairs 2 at a time. Their bedroom door was open. Hazel and Iris lay in their twin beds, perfectly positioned on their backs, their favorite stuffed rabbits tucked under their arms. They never slept like that. Hazel always ended up sideways, blankets on the floor. Iris always curled into a ball. Their lips were blue. I grabbed Hazel first, her body limp and cold. "No, no, no, baby, wake up!" I started CPR, counting compressions through my sobs. "Dexter, call 911!" I screamed. He appeared in the doorway, phone already in his hand, his voice eerily calm as he gave our address. I moved to Iris, breathing into her lungs, begging God, begging anyone. My mother appeared in the doorway, watching, not helping, just watching. "What did you do?" she whispered, but loud enough for Dexter to hear. "Oh, Ramona, what did you do?" "Help me," I screamed at her, but she just stood there, shaking her head. "I knew this would happen," she said, backing away. "I knew you'd snap. The pressure, the exhaustion. I told everyone at church you were heading for a breakdown." The paramedics arrived, pushing me aside, working on my babies with mechanical efficiency. One of them looked at me with sympathy. The other wouldn't meet my eyes. They pronounced Hazel at 7:33 a.m., Iris at 7:34. By noon, the news vans had assembled on our lawn like vultures. My mother stood before them, tears streaming down her face, that lace handkerchief dabbing delicately at her eyes. "She must have snapped," she told them, her voice breaking at just the right moments. "She smothered them in their sleep. A mother knows I should have done more to help her." The funeral home smelled like lilies and furniture polish, a combination that would forever make me sick. I'd spent the morning picking out the smallest coffins they made, white with pink satin lining because the twins loved pink. The funeral director, Mr. Garrison, kept apologizing for things that weren't his fault, while I wrote a check I couldn't afford for boxes that would hold my entire world. 3 days had passed since my daughters died. 3 days of my mother giving interviews to anyone with a camera, painting herself as the concerned grandmother who'd seen this coming. 3 days of neighbors crossing the street to avoid me. 3 days of Dexter refusing to leave my side, even sleeping on my bedroom floor because he was afraid something would happen to me too. I was adjusting Iris's dress, the purple one with butterflies she'd worn for Easter, when I heard the footsteps. Heavy, multiple sets, official. Detective Jerome Packard entered first, his face professionally neutral, followed by 3 uniformed officers. "Ramona Tilford," he said, his voice filling the small viewing room. "You're under arrest for the murder of Hazel and Iris Tilford. You have the right to remain silent." The handcuffs clicked around my wrists with a finality that should have broken me, but all I could think about was how Iris's hair ribbon was crooked, and I couldn't fix it with my hands bound. The cameras were already there, of course. My mother had made sure of that, standing in the doorway with her perfectly timed tears. "Mommy didn't hurt them!" Dexter's voice exploded through the room. He'd been sitting so quietly in the corner that everyone had forgotten he was there, holding the stack of funeral programs we'd just picked up from the printer. Now he stood, all 4 feet of him, vibrating with a fury I'd never seen in my gentle boy. "Grandma's lying," he continued, his voice getting stronger. "I saw her go in their room at night. She's lying to everyone." Detective Packard raised his hand to quiet the murmuring crowd and knelt down to Dexter's level. "What did you see, son?" Dexter pulled out my old phone, the one I'd given him to play educational games, his hand steady despite the tears running down his face. "I couldn't sleep because Grandma was walking around. She never sleeps when she stays over. She goes through our stuff, moves things around, writes in her journal. But that night was different." My mother stepped forward. The child is traumatized. Children have such wild imaginations when they're grieving. You can't possibly believe. Let him speak, Detective Packard said sharply. She went into Hazel and Iris's room at 2:47 a.m., Dexter continued, his voice clear and precise. I know because I always check my dinosaur clock when I wake up. She was carrying something white in her hands. She was in there for 8 minutes and 23 seconds. I counted Mississippi's like Mom taught me for hide and seek. He touched the phone screen, swiping through several blurry but unmistakable photos. My mother in the hallway. My mother entering the twins' room. My mother leaving, carrying what was clearly a pillow. I took pictures because I wanted to show Mommy that Grandma goes through our stuff at night. She reads Mommy's mail, goes through her work bag, takes pictures of papers. I've been documenting it for weeks. He pulled out a small notebook from his pocket, covered in his careful handwriting. Here's my log, every time she visited, everything weird she did. The room had gone completely silent. Even the news cameras seemed to stop their mechanical breathing. Detective Packard took the phone and notebook carefully, like they were made of gold. Why didn't you tell anyone sooner? He asked gently. I tried to tell Mommy that morning, but the ambulance came and then everyone was crying, and then Grandma was on TV saying Mommy did it, and I didn't know who would believe me. I'm just a kid. But then you were going to take Mommy away forever, and I had to try. My mother's face had gone white. This is ridiculous. You're going to believe a 7-year-old's fantasy over a grown woman? He's obviously protecting his mother. Children will say anything. Mrs. Tilford, Detective Packard stood, his expression changing. We're going to need you to come to the station as well, just to clear some things up. I'm not going anywhere, she snapped, but her voice had lost its confident edge. I'm the victim here. My granddaughters are dead. And we need to find out exactly how that happened, the detective replied. He turned to one of the officers. Get a forensics team back to the house. Tell them to check everything again, especially any pillows or bedding. He looked at my mother. And get a warrant for Mrs. Beverly Tilford's residence. All of it. The cameras captured everything, the same cameras my mother had arranged to destroy me. But now they were recording her mask finally, completely, slipping away. The forensics team returned to our house that afternoon while I sat in the police station's family room with Dexter. They'd released me on my own recognizance after Dexter's revelation, but Detective Packard wanted us close by. My son sat next to me, still clutching his notebook, adding details he remembered as they came to him. She brought her special tea that night, he told Detective Packard, the one in the thermos. She made Hazel and Iris drink it with their bedtime snack. Said it would help them sleep better. They didn't like it, but she said they couldn't have their cookies unless they finished it. 3 hours later, Detective Packard returned with an evidence bag. Inside was a white pillow with monogrammed initials, B.E.T. Beverly Elizabeth Tilford. We found this in your mother's car trunk, he said, wrapped in a garbage bag, but she didn't account for the fact that we'd check her vehicle. The pillowcase has only her fingerprints on it, not yours, not the children's, just hers, positioned exactly where someone would grip a pillow if they were holding it down. The toxicology report came next. Dr. Morrison from the hospital delivered it personally, tears in her eyes. The twins had Zopiclone in their systems. It's a prescription sleep medication. The levels were significant enough to ensure they wouldn't wake up easily. My mother takes Zopiclone, I whispered. She reported it stolen from her purse at church last month, made a huge fuss about it, even filed a police report. Detective Packard nodded. We know. We pulled the report. Convenient timing. The next morning, they arrested her. I wasn't there, but the neighbor's security footage was played on every news channel. My mother being let out in handcuffs at 6 a.m., wearing her silk pajamas and no makeup, screaming about lawsuits and incompetent police. The same news stations that had crucified me 48 hours earlier now had a new narrative. The trial revealed everything. Prosecutors found her journal, the leather one she carried everywhere, pages and pages of plans, written in her perfect stenographer's shorthand that she thought no one else could read. But the court had other retired stenographers who could. Ramona continues to deteriorate. She'd written in January. The children suffer under her chaotic parenting. Something must be done before she damages them permanently. March's entry was darker. If the twins were gone, Ramona would break completely. Social services would finally see she's unfit. Dexter would come to me. I could raise him properly. The final entry, dated April 14th. Tomorrow night, our working double shift. Use 30 milliliters each. The pillow from my house to avoid questions. Must happen between 2 to 3 a.m. when sleep is deepest. Remove pillow immediately after. Ramona will be blamed. Exhausted nurse snaps and kills children. I'll be the grieving grandmother who tried to warn everyone. During the trial, more evidence surfaced. She'd researched suffocation methods on the library computer, thinking she was being clever by not using her home device. She'd practiced her grieving grandmother speech in front of her bathroom mirror. The elderly woman in the adjacent apartment had heard her through the thin walls and thought she was rehearsing for a church play. On the stand, my mother finally broke. Not with remorse, but with rage. "You were failing them," she screamed at me from the witness box. "Working those pathetic shifts, coming home dead on your feet. Those girls deserved better than a mother who could barely keep her eyes open. They deserved someone who could give them structure, discipline, a proper life. Not some rental house with a single mother who prioritizes other people's children." "So you killed them?" the prosecutor asked quietly. "I saved them," she said, lifting her chin. "I saved them from growing up like her. Weak, pathetic, never good enough. At least now they're angels. Perfect, innocent angels who'll never know disappointment." The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. 2 counts of first-degree murder, with special circumstances of vulnerable victims. Life without the possibility of parole. As they led her away, she turned to look at Dexter one last time. "You ruined everything," she told him. "You could have had a better life with me." Dexter stood up, all 7 years of him, and said clearly, "I already have the best life, with my real mom, the one who never hurt anybody." Detective Packard found us after the verdict. "Your son is the bravest kid I've ever met," he said. "He saved your life, Mrs. Tilford. His documentation, his photos, his testimony. Without him, you'd be serving life for your mother's crimes." That night, local news ran a different story. Not about the grandmother who killed or the mother wrongly accused, but about a 7-year-old boy with a dinosaur watch who'd known something was wrong and refused to let injustice win. We left Pennsylvania 6 months after the trial ended. The house on Maple Street had become a true crime tourist attraction, with people taking selfies in front of it and posting them online with hashtags like, grandmother from hell, and eyeing justice for Hazel and Iris. Dexter couldn't walk to school without someone pointing or whispering, or worse, trying to interview him about that night. Oregon was supposed to be our fresh start, a small town where nobody knew our names, where Dexter could just be a kid again instead of the boy who solved his sister's murders. We found a little blue house with a big backyard, nothing fancy, but it had something our old place never did: peace. The first few months were the hardest. Dexter would wake up at 2:47 a.m. every single night, checking his dinosaur watch, then checking on me. He'd stand in my doorway counting to 8 minutes and 23 seconds, the exact amount of time my mother had been in the twins' room. His therapist, Dr. Chen, said it was his way of processing the trauma, of trying to rewrite that night with a different ending. I should have stopped her, he told Dr. Chen during one session I was allowed to attend. I saw her go in. I should have woken up Mom or called 911 or done something. You did do something, Dr. Chen reminded him gently. You documented it. You saved your mom. You made sure the truth came out. But I didn't save Hazel and Iris. That broke me every time. My 7-year-old son carrying the weight of guilt that belonged to my mother alone. We worked through it together, therapy twice a week, support groups for both of us. Slowly, the 2:47 a.m. wake-ups became less frequent. The counting stopped. He started sleeping through the night again. We planted 2 cherry trees in our Oregon backyard the following spring. Dexter picked the spots, right where they'd catch the morning sun. When they bloomed for the first time, pink petals that reminded me so much of the twins' favorite color, he sat between them with his homework. I'm learning fractions, he told the trees. Hazel, you'd hate this. You always said math was boring, but Iris, you'd probably be better at it than me. He still does that. Talks to them like they're just away somewhere, like they might answer back. His therapist says it's healthy, his way of keeping them in his life while still moving forward. Detective Packard stays in touch. He calls every few months, checks in on how we're doing. He told me something during our last conversation that I'll never forget. In 30 years of police work, I've never seen anything like what your son did. Most adults wouldn't have had the presence of mind to document what he documented. He didn't just save you, Ramona. He changed how we train detectives. We have a whole module now on listening to children, really listening. We call it the Dexter Protocol. My mother never admitted remorse. Even in her letters from prison, which I don't open but can't bring myself to throw away, she maintains she was saving my daughters from me. The return addresses show she's tried to write to Dexter too, but those letters go straight to the prosecutor's office. Part of her conviction includes no contact with him until he's 18, and then only if he initiates it. Will you ever forgive her? Dexter asked me last week, out of nowhere while we were making dinner together. I don't know, I told him honestly. Forgiveness isn't something I'm ready to think about. Right now, I'm just focused on healing, on building our life, on making sure you're okay. I'm not okay, he said, and my heart stopped. But I'm getting better. My therapist says that's normal. To not be okay, but to be getting better. He's 10 now, still small for his age, but with an old soul that breaks my heart. He wants to be a detective when he grows up, says he wants to help other kids who see things adults miss. His teacher says he's brilliant, especially at pattern recognition and logical reasoning. That boy could solve any puzzle you put in front of him, she told me at conferences. The cherry trees are taller now, strong enough for the swing Dexter asked to hang between them. Sometimes I watch him from the kitchen window, swinging gently, talking to his sisters about his day, about the books he's reading, about the girl in his class who shares her cookies with him. We're not the family we were supposed to be. There are 2 empty chairs at our dinner table, 2 voices missing from our bedtime routines. But we're surviving, Dexter and I, carrying Hazel and Iris with us in the only way we can. And sometimes, on good days, we're even happy. The truth saved us, but it was a 7-year-old boy's courage that made the truth matter. If this story touched your heart or reminded you of the importance of listening to children, please take a moment to like this video and share it with others who need to hear it. Your support helps these important stories reach more people, and if you haven't already, subscribe to our channel for more powerful true stories that will stay with you long after they end. Thank you for listening to Ramona and Dexter's story.